The Kentucky Hilltoppers are still primed to be one of the best teams in Conference USA in 2024, even with all of the change that they're going to be going through this season. There were guys that entered the portal, some really, really good pieces off this team from last year are even gone off to the NFL. But as much pieces leave through the portal, they utilize the portal well, and Tyson Helton's group is ready to roll here this upcoming season. Can Western Kentucky get back on top of the mountain in Conference USA this year? Well, you're about to find out what I think here in this video. What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel and welcome to Prediction Seasons, where I predict all 134 FBS level college football teams. Guys, we are so close to, well, I guess not so close to getting done, but we are on our way. We're well more than halfway there, just around 50 teams to go. If you're a fan of a Power 4 team, you already have a video on my channel, but you got to stick around for the rest of Prediction Season. Hit the subscribe button, ring the bell. I upload around 2 or 3 videos every single day. You're also going to want to hear what I have to say during the season, won't you? Especially if you're as big of a college football nerd as I am. Please hit the subscribe button. But I want to thank you for watching this video. It does mean a lot to me, and it helps support the channel in a lot more ways than you can even imagine. And really, any way you interact with the channel helps support it. Watching my video, including any other video of mine that has ever been posted to my channel, I have almost 1,000 of them up there, including 80 some odd predictions from this summer that you can go back and watch right now. But like, comment, share, do anything you can, help support the channel if you would like to do so. It would mean a lot to me. But let's dive on into talking about the Hilltoppers in 2024. How do we do that, though? Well, I'm glad you asked. We'll take a deep dive into the team's offense. We'll take a deep dive into the defense. And then we will go through the Western Kentucky football schedule. We'll give it a game-by-game preview and prediction, but I do have a couple more things before we start, because right over here are going to be the stats the team put up either offensively or defensively last season. And of course, for your viewing pleasure, as I always do, right below the team's logo, I've put the team's coaching staff. Let's talk about the Hilltoppers here in 2024. This was a very talented offense last season. Tyson Helton, and, well, Western Kentucky in general usually has a lot of very, very good offensive weapons, and last year was no different. A former Division II quarterback, a West Florida transfer, Austin Reed, excelled at the FBS level as well, and he was a very good quarterback for Western Kentucky. 3,340 yards, 31 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions last year. Sure, you would have liked the interception number to be lower, but you can't really ask for much better than what Austin Reed did, and he's proved himself enough because the league likes him. Yeah, you'll see him playing on Sundays now. He is off to the NFL, and Bronson Barron, a guy who I think only threw 1 or 2 passes last season, is off through the transfer portal, so you just lose a little bit of depth in this quarterback room, but you do get Caden Veltkamp and Turner Helton coming back. Veltkamp was the primary backup last year. 54 passes thrown, completed 41 of them, 387 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 pick. That's a fairly impressive stat line, and he is making his case well known to be the starter here in 2024. And I think it's going to be a very competitive battle. I do, however, sadly think Veltkamp is going to be beat out because Western Kentucky went into the transfer portal and they brought over TJ Finley, who a lot of you may know from the Power 5. He was a quarterback at Auburn, and he also started out his career at LSU in 2020. Things just didn't go that well for him in the Power 5 realm, now obviously the Power 4 realm. He transferred over to Texas State last year, where he exploded in G.J. Kinney's offensive system. 3,439 yards, 24 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions through the air. Not really much of a runner, although did have 5 rushing touchdowns last season. You're getting a true pocket passer here in TJ Finley, and if he can continue that production from where he saw last year into this offensive system, well, I know I'm about to talk about a lot of very talented pieces that leave, but I'll also be talking about a lot of talented pieces that surround who I believe to be the starting quarterback for this team in TJ Finley and this offense. It's a passing attack that averaged almost 300 yards per game last year, especially if TJ Finley's production from last season continues. It could be well right around that number this season. To the NFL, gone is Marquise Stepp. Again, another guy that you saw in a Power 4 program once upon a time. He had 310 yards, 3 touchdowns last season. Not the team's leading rusher, but you do lose him. Davion Irvin Poindexter, a long mainstay here with Western Kentucky, is gone due to graduation. So you are losing 2 pieces out of the running back room, your second and third leading rushers from last season. However, you do get some pretty good pieces coming back, including your leading rusher, Elijah Young. Obviously, this team throws the ball a lot more than they run the ball, but Elijah Young, pretty solid player here. 104 carries, 474 yards, 3 touchdowns, and for all you math nerds, that's 4.6 yards per carry. You're also returning LT Sanders and Corey Landers, as well as some guys coming in through the transfer portal that probably are going to end up playing some really, really good minutes here in this room. I will get you where they are from here in a second, but Jalen Hampton and George Hart are coming in. Hampton is over from Elon, and Hart, that actually should be George Hart the third. I'm not really going to add anything to it because it is just a suffix, but overall, you're getting, oh, and by the way, he is from the Arizona State Sun Devils. Two pretty talented pieces. We'll see how much playing time they get this upcoming season. This is by far the biggest loss, maybe besides Austin Reed, to this offense, but you could also argue that Malachi Corley out of the wide receiver room is an even bigger loss. The talent that he possesses is insane. He was darn near 1,000 yards last season, and I believe he put up 1,000 yards in 2024. I don't have a way to fact check that super quickly right now, but I believe, in 2022, where he put up 1,000 yards. Anyway, last season, 79 catches, 984 yards, 11 touchdowns. All you need to know, he's a really good wide receiver for good reason. He'll be playing on Sundays, and he's now in the New York Jets organization. Jimmy Holiday has gone through the transfer portal, fourth leading receiver from last year, and Craig Burt, a depth piece in the room that, look, I say depth piece, you had a lot of guys that had a lot of catches for the team last year. 28 catches, 233 yards, 3 touchdowns for him. Still some really solid production. All three of those guys are very notable losses, especially Corley in this wide receiver room. Dalvin Smith, though, does come back. 513 yards, 6 touchdowns last season. Michael Matheson is also going to be coming back to this team. Katie Hutchinson is back. Musa Berry will also be coming back here to this team as well. And you do get some guys coming in through the transfer portal. Keyshawn Johnson is in and figures to be a starter here on this team. He is coming over from Alabama State. How about that? You also do get Bryce Childress coming over from Troy, along with a couple other guys that'll play wide receiver for this team from the portal as well. Now, I'm realizing that one name I foolishly did not put here on this board, so I will mention his name. Hilltopper fans, don't get mad at me. I'm saying his name here. He's going to be a very important piece of the wide receiver room as well. I believe, either a true or redshirt freshman from last season, but Easton Messer is coming back, a guy who had 484 yards, 4 touchdowns last season. He's also going to be a huge part to what this wide receiver room does in 2024, also as a punt and kick returner for the Hilltoppers as well. Tight end room, no notable losses, so River Helms, Trevor Borland come back, while CJ Kiss is a portal piece. Speaking of portal pieces, you lose a couple of them there in Vincent Murphy and Wes Dorsey off the offensive line. Mark Good is utilized as much eligibility as he would like to use. He is graduated. So your offensive line room looks like this. Quintavious Leslie, Wesley Horton, Evan Wibberly, Jackson Marshall, and Colton Cable all come back. Stacy Wilkins, Melvin Collins, and Rodney Newsome all come back, or I should say all come in through the transfer portal. You'll see a combination of those 8 guys starting on your offensive line. Overall, when you talk about this offense, again, I think the key here hinges on the production that TJ Finley is going to provide you. Not much of a runner, so what is he going to provide with his arm? He proved what he could do with Texas State last year, although that's probably in a lot more of a high-octane offensive system. Western Kentucky used to run something similar when Zach Kitley was still here. Obviously, now it's Will Friend who is that offensive coordinator. Can TJ Finley be a friend to this offense? That's the big question to answer here in 2024. Yes, obviously the double entendre, the pun there, whatever you want to call it, absolutely intended. You talk about the Western Kentucky defense here from last season, and well, I mean, taking a look at that first number there, 419 yards per game, it definitely was not the brightest side of the ball here for Western Kentucky. The offense led this team, and the defense really struggled at a lot of points last season, including in that rush defense. They allowed almost 200 yards on the ground last season, something that you want to see get better here out of the Hilltoppers in 2024. Nonetheless, they had Austin Reed, had Malachi Corley. The offense helped them win a lot of games, but the offense, understandably so, could see steps back in varying different directions. Now, I don't think it's going to take a giant step back. That's not what I'm even trying to predict at all. I'm just saying that very well could happen, and so the defense has to see some improvement here, I think, in 2024 for Western Kentucky to get back competing for a Conference USA championship, which I think they will already, but in order for them to get over that Liberty hump, because obviously Liberty returns a ton of talent. Okay, enough rambling on here. Let's talk about who they lose. Keontae Davis, he has gone off of the defensive line. Davis from last season, 32 tackles, half a sack, so he has graduated. You lose him. Jacques Evans is also going to be gone here as well. He leaves through the transfer portal, 30 tackles and a sack here as well. Now, Western Kentucky does utilize edge rushers, like true edge rushers, guys that can play on the defensive line or in the linebacker room, I have put them in the defensive line room. So any sort of edge rushing player, any guy that you're going to see rush off the edge or play off the edge for Western Kentucky this season, they are going to be listed in these names right here. Jose Wheeler will be back on this team. He is an interior defensive lineman. However, 42 tackles, 2 sacks for him last season. Deontay McCray, Jaden Loving, Terrion Thompson, Dallas Walker, Marcus Patterson, and lots others return to the defensive line for Western Kentucky this season. And you do get Jaleel Rivera Harvey coming in here through the transfer portal. I think he'll play some really big minutes on the defensive line. He's coming over from Marshall, a team we're actually going to talk about in a few videos. He had a pretty successful season in 2023. You take a look at your linebacker room, and I mean just 5 names leaving this linebacker room, and all of them had varying levels of production for this team last season. Desmond Baker is off through the transfer portal. 45 tackles for him, was the team's 4th leading tackler. Aaron Key, also a guy who had some pretty solid production, 29 tackles for him. And Lonnie Rice, all guys that are off through the transfer portal. Rice more of a depth piece than anything in this linebacker room. And 2 guys have graduated. Nico Cooper is going to be gone, 39 tackles, 1 sack, couple pass defended for him last season. And Bryson Washington will be gone as well, 16 tackles, 2 pass defended, and a pick for him. So again, varying levels of production, but nonetheless, for the most part, all very important players for the defense from last season. You do, however, get your leading tackler from a season back. That was Kylan Guidry, 54 tackles, 3 sacks for him last season. So that's a big get back for this defense. Sebastian Benjamin, Devon Lynch, Anthony Brackenridge, and Rasheon Hodge. I probably butchered that first name, so I apologize. But regardless, all those names do come back, and Chandler Matthews is a guy that comes in here through the transfer portal. He is coming over, I believe, from an FCS level program. You also are getting Terrence Ellis, another FCS transfer coming over from Alcorn State, but nonetheless, you return a lot of talent in this linebacker room. And again, those portal pieces, well, they could see some pretty solid playing time. Run through their losses in the defensive back room really quickly here. Davion Williams and Rome Weber have both run out of eligibility that they have wished to use. They have both since graduated. Williams from last season, Davion Williams to be exact, 28 tackles, 2 passes defended last season. And then Tavares Springer, or TJ Springer, as you could call him, a guy who only had 11 tackles last year, but is a loss through the portal nonetheless. Through the transfer portal, in your safety room, Kendrick Simpkins is gone. He was one of the most talented safeties in the country coming into the transfer portal. 52 tackles, 6.5 sacks. That actually led the team as a safety last year, and Talik Allen does leave through the portal as well, while Tukulve Williams, probably butchered that name as well, he's run out of eligibility and graduated. 42 tackles for him last season. So who comes back to this defensive back room? Well, Anthony Johnson originally was in the portal, then withdrew his name. 5 passes defended, 4 interceptions, which led the team last year. You do see him coming back, and Upton Stout back as well. And also, if you want to be technical, it's Anthony Johnson Jr., but yeah, just wanted to fix some things there. Upton Stout last season led the team with 8 passes defended, so 2 really big get-backs in the cornerback room for the Hilltopper defense. Jamar Mundy does enter through the portal as well. Safety room, Virgil Marshall, Alex Ford, and George Ellie all come back, while DeMarco Williams, Kent Robinson, and Devontae Matthews all come in through the transfer portal. And you got to show love to kickers because they are people too. Tom Eller does leave through the portal. He was a pretty solid punter for them last season. So you do get Lucas Carniero back to be your primary place kicker this season, while Riley Stevens and Cole Maynard are 2 guys that come in through the portal that are going to be battling out for punting duties here in 2024. So overall, when you take a look at this defense, look, it loses a ton of talent from last season, but a lot of really good talent comes back, especially in that secondary. Johnson, Stout, Marshall, Ford, they all were pretty solid pieces. Linebacker room has some solid pieces. There are some really good pieces on the defensive line here as well. You just want to see improvement from Western Kentucky because I think the offense is still going to be talented. They got a lot of very, very good pieces. The defense has to show improvement. Start forcing some turnovers here. They had 15 interceptions and 11 fumbles recovered last season. So I guess I misspoke. So the turnovers were there. You got to be able to slow teams from driving down the field. That leads me into the Western Kentucky football schedule, and it looks like this. Any game at home will be underlined, while any game on the road is in italics or that slanted text. Any game you see in green is a game that I think the Hilltoppers are going to win fairly easily, while any game in yellow is a close competitive game, but one I still think Western Kentucky is going to be able to win. Any game in red is a loss, and that's exactly where we start. I just don't see Western Kentucky going on the road and beating the Alabama Crimson Tide. Look, I know Nick Saban is gone. I know a lot of talent leaves with him, but Kalen DeBoer is coming in. He's been a winner everywhere he has gone. And, well, that I just quite simply think is going to be a loss there. I don't see a way they go into Bryant-Denny Stadium and come away with a win against the Alabama Crimson Tide, but I also don't see a way that Eastern Kentucky walks in here to Western Kentucky and is able to win that game. Western Kentucky, obviously an FBS team, one of the better ones in Conference USA. Eastern Kentucky, fairly solid team out of the FCS ranks, if my knowledge is correct, but I still think Western Kentucky going to be able to pull off that win as they beat Eastern Kentucky there in week 2. Week 3, you have to go on the road and play Middle Tennessee, and I know that a lot of people are not really projecting Middle Tennessee that well. I am one of those people where I actually really like a lot of the talent that Middle Tennessee has, including their quarterback, Nick Vattiato, and I think he is going to be a huge piece to the amount of success that I project Middle Tennessee can absolutely have here this season. Now, might not be anything crazy like competing for a Conference USA title or anything like that, but with Vattiato coming back, a lot of offensive weapons around him, some pretty solid defensive pieces back, and they pepper guys in through the transfer portal. I think Middle Tennessee is going to be competitive this year, but I think the play of Vattiato, while some of these pieces in the defensive backroom try to settle in through the portal here, and it definitely was a piece that was better than the rush defense last year, but I think we'll see their struggles early on this season. I do see that being a loss there for the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. Again, I think Vattiato is one of the better quarterbacks Group of 5 has to offer. He showed it last year, and I think he's going to show it with lights shining brighter this season. Middle Tennessee will be solid. That's a really tough road game for me and a win for Middle Tennessee. So Western Kentucky starting out 1-2 here, but then you have to go against the Toledo Rockets, and I think this is one of those games, one of those Group of 5 versus Group of 5 matchups that if you're not really doing anything, you got to tune into. In week 4, I think this is going to be an absolutely fascinating game. Toledo lost a lot of pieces from last season. Penny Boone is gone. You also did lose to Quan Finn from last season, but a lot of that, in fact, pretty much all that wide receiver room stays intact. You still have Tucker Gleason. Jaquez Stewart is going to be a very good running back for this team. And what do you know? Jason Candle is still that head coach. After rumblings that he may leave, he decided to stay. And Toledo, I think, is still going to be one of the most talented teams in the Mid-American Conference this season. Defense returns a lot of really good pieces. They get some guys to provide some depth through that transfer portal. But I do think that this is sort of going to be a game here where I think Toledo's going to be missing a lot of their dynamic pieces from last season. Yes, Tucker Gleason's going to provide solid quarterback play, but Taquan Finn, with the amount of dual threat ability he has, I think is going to be missed here. And look, this is a game that I could really see going either way. I flip-flopped back and forth on this one forever, but I decided to land with Western Kentucky. I think that the home environment here will be able to push the Hilltoppers to the top of the hill, and they will get there before the Toledo Rockets can take off. So that, again, a lot of play on words there. That is a win for me for the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. Close one there. I think that's a very interesting and fun battle. Can't wait to watch it. But the Hilltoppers top the hill. They do have to go on the road and play Boston College, and I think Bill O'Brien's group is going to be fairly solid this season. Yes, there are some pieces that leave, both to the NFL through the transfer portal, but they still got a lot of pretty good pieces there. Thomas Castellanos is coming back at quarterback. I think the defense sees itself some pretty solid success this season, and overall Western Kentucky, I just don't think going to match up with them well. So you're starting out 2-3 here before you dive into a full slate of conference play. UTEP is a team that I think is going to battle in Conference USA play this season. I really, really do. But with this game being on a weekday, I believe on a Thursday, Western Kentucky has the extra week of preparation, and they have it at home. UTEP has got a lot of solid talent on it, and I actually really like that coaching staff that they have there. They'll be one of the better teams, I think, in the top half of Conference USA this season, but no match for Western Kentucky. I think that's going to be a win there for the UTEP Miners. On the road against Sam Houston, look, they just had some things that didn't go their way last season, and adjusting to the FBS level seems like it's going to be a little bit of a challenge for Sam Houston, an FCS champion, I believe back in 2020 or 2021. I think they're going to find ways to get it going this season, but not enough to beat Western Kentucky. And then you have another extra week of preparation here, your second bye week, before you have to play the new team to the FBS ranks and the new team to Conference USA, Kennesaw State. And look, if you think it was going to take Sam Houston some time to adjust here, it's going to take Kennesaw State some time to adjust to the FBS level. They were not a very good FCS team last season. They're losing a lot of talent through the transfer portal, and just jumping up that level of competition. I know you're probably in the weakest conference in FBS. It doesn't matter. They're going to see their struggles here, and Western Kentucky should run all over them. So they are above 500 here by a couple of games. And I do think they go on the road and beat New Mexico State. They're going to see a fall off this year because they lost everybody from last season. Diego Pavia, Star Thomas, Jerry Kill, their head coach. New Mexico State's going to be dealing with a lot of change this season, and I just see that one being a win for Western Kentucky on the road. You do go up against Louisiana Tech next, and they lost their quarterback from last season in Hank Bachmeier, a guy that honestly didn't play terribly for them, but Louisiana Tech did not have great fortunes last season, and I don't see them getting too much better here in 2024. I think they'll be a little bit better in some ways, and they'll be competitive, but ultimately I see the Hilltoppers coming out again on top. You got two really tough games that'll end out the season, and I honestly think you split these two, so whether that's you beat Liberty and you lose to Jacksonville State, I think it's more likely that the other way happens. I think you lose to Liberty. Look, they're also going to be one of the most talented teams in Group of Five. They weren't the G5 champion for nothing last season. Kane Salter, a lot of offensive pieces come back, which means I have you beating Jacksonville State, a surprise in the FBS last season, and I think they're going to be a pretty solid team again this year, but overall, I still see the Gamecocks not being able to beat Western Kentucky, which means I got 8-4 here. So overall, a pretty solid season for Western Kentucky. I think the defense takes some steps in the right direction, and I think TJ Finley fits in well with this offensive system. Still some questions to answer, but overall, this will be one of the better teams in Conference USA in 2024. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder, and we'll talk about the Toledo Rockets in my next video. Goodbye.